Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Boss Babe Collaborative. Today with me, I have my amazing friend, Stacy, and we are going to talk about how women can work with other women to empower each other. And we're also going to talk about how your archetype ties into all of that. So, Stacy, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience and let them know a little bit about what you do.
Okay. I am a Black female poet, a cappella vocalist, playwright. I also do uh, literary arts program design and consultation. I also coach writing, performance, and public speaking and singing. So I stay a little bit busy.
That's
Um,
fantastic. I love that.
and most of my life has been dedicated to explaining and illuminating the life and times of the Black woman.
hmm Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about this before, but what is your top archetype?
Top archetype, I'm searching back in my memory, Alchemist.
An alchemist. Okay, so for those of you guys who may be new to the program, I'm going to read a little bit about the alchemist so you have a little bit of background. So alchemists typically have a love-hate relationship with money that signals your appreciation for the good that it can do in the world, even though you may resent its importance. Money doesn't have the power to corrupt, only people do. And so Stacy is all about, we talked a little bit. One of her amazing gifts is that she wants to help create positive change in the world by bringing women's issues, especially Black women's issues, to the forefront. And I absolutely love this because one of the things that we like to do in our group is we talk about how being a woman is different for us in business. Stacy, you'll laugh at this. We had a conversation about how working with men is different than working with women. If I walk into a room full of men, they hear that I'm a business owner, they naturally assume that I have, and I quote, a little Etsy shop. We actually had this experience when we went to a conference recently. My husband would say, my wife is an entrepreneur. She runs her business and I work for her, because at that point he was working for me. And they would say, oh, does she have a little Etsy shop? And I remember looking at one man, because some people, they don't mean it unkindly, but there was one man who really did. You know that look.
Yeah, I
And
know.
he said, oh, so you have a little Etsy shop or something? Do you make good money at that? And, I was feeling a little sassy that day.
Only a little,
Just a little bit. And
just a
I
little bit.
said, yeah, I made a good profit. And my husband said, she makes a lot of money. She's being modest. Now, there's not a modest bone in my body. I was just trying not to be snarky. And this man said, well, how much did you make? And I was like, okay, now I come from the South, and we don't talk about money. Like,
We
that's
don't
not
talk about
good.
money,
It's not good manners. And
right?
I looked at him and I said, enough to buy your soul.
Oh,
And
I,
all the men in the group started cracking up. But
ah,
with a
that's
woman,
beautiful.
it is just different. We don't have to have what we call anatomy measuring contests when
Thank
we work with
you.
other women, because we are not like that. I mean, sometimes some women can be,
Those
but
women don't really
but
deserve
the
the title. I'm not quite sure what to
truth.
call those
hmm
ladies.
They are
Um,
not it is not a lady at that point to me, because we ladies know that we are all part of like this amazing sisterhood of women. So anyway, but yes, so working with women exclusively is in bringing not exclusively, but working specifically for women to empower women is like, I'm totally about that. So I guess my question is, so I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about
sure.
things that are typically true of alchemists, and see if this has also been true for you in your business. Um,
Okay.
and I actually believe that this first one is true just based on what you do. It says that alchemists are often attracted to unconventional or alternative ways of making money. Do you feel like that has always been true of you,
Is
or is that
is there
something that,
another way?
yes, some people are not like
I
us?
I I don't I don't quite understand that question. Um, just by virtue of the world that I live in and
Mhm.
what I do, as far as I'm concerned, all of the ways that I make money are unconventional.
I
My
love
tax guys certainly think so.
it.
Um, no, seriously, the first time I um, met with the gentleman who does my taxes, this was a
Hmm.
number of years ago. No, he's looking at my return, and he finally just looked at me and said, "Do you understand that 95% of your life is tax deductible just by virtue of what you do?"
That's
I'm
awesome.
like, I liked it.
That's right.
So, and the other thing is that you cannot get women to say about themselves, tell stories about themselves, expose themselves the way that I teach them to, unless you're unconventional.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
Telling somebody, here's a series of exercises. Do these and then get up on stage and tell everybody your business. No, it doesn't work that way.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
have there are different ways and different means, and not every lever works with everybody.
Yeah.
So even if I'm working with a crowd of, let's say if I've got a group of 30 people, I have to approach all of them on a different level,
Hmm.
because my saying, okay, say, I'm talking to Susan and I say, okay, Susan, I need you to talk about, some experience you had when you were 5 years old and it was your first Christmas.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, Diane might not want to talk about her first Christmas. Maybe her house burned down on her first Christmas or
Yeah.
something. And maybe she's not the type to want to put herself out there like that.
Yeah.
And so I have to find everybody's natural habitat, for lack of a better phrase.
Hmm.
Somebody said to me recently, do you deal with all of your clients and all of the folks that you work with in the same way? I said, I can't.
No.
I can't. There are
Yeah.
too many different layers and too many different levels. And so all I can do is give general instruction and general guideline and
Hmm.
say, go do you.
Yeah.
Because anything else, people get, especially when they're doing something like this. Poetry is really, especially performance poetry. If you're doing it right, you're bleeding out
Yeah.
in front of your audience.
Hmm.
And there are people who aren't ready to make that leap or take that risk
Hmm.
without a lot of work. And
Hmm.
I get that. There are also people who are ready just, yeah, let me just rip my heart open and go on. Okay, so I understand
Yeah.
that too. And so, each according to their need, as the saying goes.
Yes. Right. Well, and that's one of the things we talk about in a lot and through the framework of dealing with the archetypes is that there is no box that everyone fits into. And so I think in order to be a woman in business, and everybody has a little bit of each archetype in it, some of us have to have a little bit of alchemist because we have to be able to kind of, I like to call it think outside the bun. We have to like look outside of where we normally go and go, okay, but how can I approach this in a way that is different and really aligns with the people that I'm serving or aligns with who I am? Because we have to do that. So the next question would be, have you ever felt like you have a love-hate relationship with money?
All the time. For pretty much I am not against money.
Mhm.
It's, wish I had more of it. That would be great.
Right.
But I'm offended
Mhm.
by what it represents and the importance placed on it, um, to the point where it borders on the way I feel about something. It's immoral to me.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
amount of importance that it's not just unethical, it's immoral, and that's a bigger step. That's a spiritual
Yes.
for me.
Right.
I'm not saying, I'm not one of those people, throw away all your worldly goods. Da, da, da. It's not
Yeah.
about that. It's about, okay, you've got the money. What are you using it for? Now, I'm not saying, don't go off and have a good time, mazel tov,
Yeah.
have a blast. But with right comes responsibility. And you don't get, as far as I'm concerned, to amass all of this without giving back somehow
Yeah.
something.
Hmm.
And it's not. The thing about it is that um, the idea of money being the only real contribution anybody ever makes. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, you know, because I was telling you before in our little pre-interview
Hmm.
about this elderly idiot Argentinian engineer that I used to live with. And his big thing was, I mean, this man had more money than anybody needs to have. But his whole thing was, every time I give somebody something, you know, usually money, I want to be recognized for it, you know,
Hmm.
until the last dog howls. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter. You know,
Yes.
and if he wasn't recognized for it the way he wanted to be, he'd sulk about
Yeah.
it.
That makes sense.
There was that. Well, not to me, not really, because like
Yeah.
if you
Because you're an
give a,
alchemist, right?
right, if you give somebody a donation, for
Hmm.
instance, and say use it any way you want to, and
Hmm.
then sulk because they didn't use it the way you wanted them to, that's
Yes.
stupid and
Yes.
it's selfish.
Well, and that's why part of the reason why it's important to work with people who understand your archetype. Because, like, for example, if you and I were going to work one on one, I am a ruler type. That's one of my top three archetypes. And rulers, as a typical rule, see the money they bring in as a measure of their success. Now, alchemists are usually not that way. You guys, like, for the most part, care more like, hey, as long as my bills are paid and I am alive and reasonably thriving, I don't necessarily need to have, I don't need to join the 2 comma club or, things like that. Like, you aren't seeking after the goal, like, oh, yes, I undoubtedly want to make $1 million. Like, that's the goal. Like, for you, your goal might look more like, I want to achieve this social change. And if I make $1 million while I'm doing it, that's
Exactly.
great, but the $1 million isn't the goal. The social,
It's never the goal. The thing is,
yes.
you know, again, with right comes responsibility. I don't have, just because I was literally gifted with what I can do.
Hmm.
I don't have the right to just work that for myself. That
Yes.
is immoral. I can't do that. And
Right. Yeah.
so I am called upon, I am required
Hmm.
to go out and help other folks. Now, as I tell my apprentices and other folks, if you do what you love, the money will come.
Yes.
And it
That's
doesn't
very
always
true.
come when you want it, Jesus knows.
Yeah.
It comes when you, but it does come when you need it.
Hmm. Yes.
And so you're quite right. The money is, you know, roof over my head. I know where my next meal is coming from.
Yep.
I'm good to go.
Yep.
Um, are there times when I regret that? A little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's a struggle. And it was funny because when you were talking about your Argentinian engineer, he
Hmm.
sounds like something which is called a celebrity archetype. And I'll give you a little bit of background. And you'll probably be like, yes, that's him. Celebrities are very about recognition, which on the surface can seem very only surface deep. Like, they only care about the recognition they get. But one of the things that we talk about is that each archetype has kind of a light side and a dark side. And so if you live in balance reasonably, you live on the light side of your archetype. But then if you
Right.
have no balance and you don't ever deal with the challenges of your archetype, you really struggle. And so one of the challenges of celebrities is that if they're living in their light, they can use the status that they naturally want to create amazing social change. And so they can use, like, so people who are, I'll say, celebrities in the truest sense. So, like, if you're a Hollywood celebrity and you
Okay.
make $15 billion for being in a 2-minute commercial, that can be a powerful thing because you now have a platform to say, I'm stepping up for Black women, or I am stepping up
Right.
for young
Well,
victims of,
this is what Taylor Swift just did. This
yes,
woman has
yes,
amazing, you know,
mhm,
fan base. I gotta say, I don't know why, but whatever.
yeah,
And she goes ahead and she makes this statement,
yes, she does.
after the Kavanaugh hearings. Don't get me started.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden, there's this huge boom in voter registration
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
for, for the Democratic, liberal, progressive, da 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 da.
Mhm. Yeah.
And people are saying, well, she's just a celebrity. She should shut her mouth. No, he did exactly what she was supposed to do.
That's right. And so as a celebrity and like in celebrity archetypes, even though they may not necessarily be like Hollywood celebrities or music stars or whatever, they often have that same drive to have like large platforms. And so they're the people who on the darkest side just want recognition. Like it's like,
That
I want to
would be
write you a
him
check for
on the
$10
dark
million,
side.
but like put my name on the building. And so they almost in the dark side of it, the put my name on the building becomes more important than
Yeah, it's
the
it's that
value of I
different.
gave you a check for $10 million for underserved people who want to go to college or whatever.
I can give you the perfect example of this. Um, we I had friends come over for dinner,
Mhm.
and friends I hadn't seen for a long time, and it's at his house, so of course he's there. And so we're talking, both ends of the table are talking, and so one of my friends, Lynn, says to me, you've done really well. You
Mhm.
know, you and she wasn't talking about money because
Mhm.
Lynn's an artist too. But what she
Yeah.
said was, you've done really well. You seem like you're really good. I don't remember this conversation at
Mhm.
all. So later on down the road, when the engineer and I weren't getting along all that well,
Mhm.
he said, "Well, you didn't even acknowledge me." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Your friend made some comment about how I was doing really well, and you didn't even say, 'Oh, well, it's thanks to my housemate because he lets me do this and that.'" And I said, "What are you talking? Well,
Yeah.
I don't even remember that." Every single time he had an issue with me, every argument, da 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 da, the situation got really to the point where I had to leave his employ. Things just
Yeah.
got out of hand. He would bring that up. And at
Mhm.
one point I said to him, "Excuse me, I wrote a poem for you that
Yes.
hundreds of people heard,
Mhm. Yeah.
saying, 'You've helped me with this, you've done this for me, did it. What about that?'" "Well, that's not the same thing."
Yes.
And
And
I
see,
said, "How
that's
can I?"
like, yes.
So it
Yeah.
was enough. It was like, okay, okay, so what do you want here?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when I'm working, when I'm dealing with folks, um, I will tell people quite honestly. Well, let me rephrase that. I have no memory for faces.
Mhm.
Voices, yes. Voices I remember. Names and faces, everybody. I just tell people from Jump Street, I will not remember your name. Everybody is sugar cookie, honey baby, darling to me. Okay.
I understand.
But my fans, bless their hearts, will remember a poem or
Mhm.
whatever. And I have people quite often approach me and say, "Oh, I remember, such and such and this thing that you did and da 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 da. But I'm so sorry, I forgot your name."
Mhm.
I could care less. You
Mhm.
remembered the work. I'm
Yes.
thrilled. That's
Yes.
all I need to hear. I had a kid come up to me once and say, "You did this. I remember you. You came to my school. You did this poem, and it was da da da." He said, "I'm really, really sorry. I can't remember what your name is." I said, "Honey, if you remember all that about the poem, because you remembered the poem in
Then it
detail."
did its job.
And
Yeah.
I said, "If you remember all that, you don't need to remember my name. I could
That's right.
care less."
Yeah, that's right.
So that's what I'm after. I'm not saying that it's not nice to have name recognition, and I
Oh,
do
yeah.
in my circle. That's great,
But
but
that's
that's
not
not
what
the
you
point.
value. But
No,
that's not what you value. You aren't going to sit there and go, I want my name in the marquee. I want my name in lights. Whereas someone who works with you might really want that. And so, like, yes, but I completely understand. And how you value that is completely valid. But then also, those of us who might be a little bit more money driven, like, that's also perfectly valid, because for us, what we value about money is different. So, like, you value money's ability to, um,
change things.
yes, to support the changes that you want. Whereas someone who is a different archetype, who's driven a little bit differently, might say, money isn't necessarily supporting change. Money is the vehicle for change, if that makes any sense. It's just a
Yeah, it
little
does.
bit different,
But the
but
thing is that, people run on different motivations.
yeah, exactly.
When I work with people, say, who were born like a little bit after the Depression, the first
Mhm.
one,
Yes.
okay. Um, their whole thing is whatever it is I've got, I better hang on to it because everything could crash in a heartbeat.
Yes. Hmm.
And unfortunately, you see more and more of that. People are kind of like, whatever it is, people who have been victims of natural disasters.
Same
Like,
way.
I
Yeah.
lost everything the first time. I'm not going to lose it again. I'm going to hang on to it with both hands. I get that.
Hmm.
I totally understand that. Um, I've been through a couple of financial crashes.
Hmm.
2 years ago, over 2 years ago, actually, I got flooded out of Baton Rouge
Okay.
and
Yeah.
lost a lot. That, yes, to some extent, did make me kind of think, okay, on one hand, it was like I have to hold on to
Mhm.
stuff because something horrible is going to happen again. You always have that. You know,
It's
I
that
have
fear in the back of your mind. Yeah.
I have a poem that talks about whenever a hard rain comes down, I start freaking out.
Hmm.
And we had a hard rain last night, and it was not comfortable for me for a little while.
Yeah.
Um, because it's that whole thing about I'm going to lose everything again. I'm going to lose everything again. The other half is, and I love this half. I celebrate this half. It's like, screw it. It's stuff. You
It'll be
know, if
fine.
it
Right.
goes, because I have discovered the joys of ordering stuff online. I'm good. I'm good to go.
Amazon 2-day shipping.
Yes. So that I'm, even though I do not have um, at all a large budget, I've
Hmm.
been able to, buy a couple of things, get a couple of things, do some stuff that, the old me would have said, now, Stacy, you have
Hmm.
to hang on to that money. Don't go to the open mic tonight because, that's the train and that's, da da da, all that
Yes.
stuff. The new me was like, I'm trying to reintroduce myself to my community. I got to be there. Boom, I was
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And then, I come home and it's like, was it worth the divine lines? Was it worth it? Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, 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 it was worth it. If I
Yeah.
had the feeling I got, I step out of the car and the guy who's headlining that I haven't seen in like 4 years
Hmm.
looks at me and goes, "What?" Gives me this huge hug. There's other poets like, "I can't believe you're here." Da, da, da. So all of that,
Yeah.
that's the payoff. And
Yes.
then to have people who had never heard me before say, "Oh my God, what you did was, just amazing." Da, 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 da.
Hmm.
There's the payoff.
Yeah.
If money goes with it, great. If it doesn't, great. I got paid. People heard
Yes.
my work.
Yeah.
People got the message.
It's all about the sharing of your message and furthering your cause.
Exactly.
And that is the one of the beautiful things that I love about you, amazing alchemist, is that it's as a completely almost opposite archetype. I love it because it's so pure. Like it's almost like, and I know that every archetype is different, and we all have our strengths. But one of the things that I love about the alchemist is that it is so single-mindedly, almost to the point of being fanatically dedicated. And I love that though, because sometimes actually the people who I tend to gravitate to as my team members are people who are, or one of their top three are alchemists, because sometimes as a ruler type, I focus more on the people in we call it the empire,
Okay.
the people, because you're ruler type. So it's like I'm the queen bee. I focus on making everything wonderful for everyone, which is fine, but sometimes it's easy to get lost in the day-to-day needs of taking care of things instead of seeing, hey, this is our vision and this is the big picture. And so alchemists are all like, this is the big picture, this is what's important. Like everything else will work itself out. But this is the big picture. And so like,
And there's a huge dose of common sense
mm-hmm.
that goes with that.
Yes.
Um, I cannot take over the free world on $7.80.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's be for real.
that's true.
In a perfect world, yes, I could. This is not
Right.
that place. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot, as much as I honestly want to, I cannot affect the lives of every single woman in the world.
No.
Which is a little daunting sometimes.
Yeah.
And sort of just, because again, in a perfect world, but again, this is not
Right.
that place. I cannot change the minds of men who don't understand women.
Mm-hmm.
I can't change the sociological, historical reasons for all of the differences between Black women, white women, Native American. I can't. Okay. Yes, talking solves a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going to be able to reach everybody. And so there's that's the common sense part. It's like right in the corner where you are. Do what you can, and the rest will take care of itself. If you do enough of what you can and what you're equipped for, quite a lot gets taken care of. And I
Yeah.
can be happy with that.
Yeah.
I can't, I can't go the other way.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do, you just take care of yourself and just do what you need to do for you. And, whatever it is that will radiate. I have, I'm not going to say friends, I have colleagues
Mm-hmm.
who operate that way. And I have days where it's like, I'll see colleagues who are making 4 times the money I am and
Mm-hmm.
doing, twice as much touring and doing all the stuff, that I want to do. But they don't mentor anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they've never had apprentices. They've never worked with students.
Yeah.
Part of my responsibility is to mentor other women artists. I can't not do
Yeah.
that. When I take on an apprentice, and my apprenticeships are 3 years long,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had a number of apprentices, and there's never a contract.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do paper. I tell them, here's the contract. At some point in your life, you have to find another woman and do for her what I'm about to do for you.
Yeah.
That's the contract. I have had the joy of seeing that carried out 2 or 3 times now. It is the
That's
coolest
fantastic.
freaking thing on earth.
I
It really
love that. Oh, I love that so much.
is. Because I can't, to me, reasonably ask for anything else.
Yeah.
Because people's fortunes change, people's living arrangements change, everything changes. I'm asking you to do something that you can do regardless of income, location, da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be another woman somewhere around where you are.
Yeah.
Find one who comes to you the way you're coming to me and says, I want to do this, and do it.
And I love that. And that also speaks a lot to your money values as an alchemist, because alchemists, like I said, it's all about the social change. And so for you, it's not about here, I'm imparting my amazing personal wisdom. It's I'm starting a cycle here, and I want you to continue this cycle. I want you to continue this wisdom, and I want you to keep sharing it and create a ripple effect. It's not about the status. It's not about the money. The money plays a piece in it, but
Well,
it's
all of those things play a piece. The status, the
yes.
money. Da, da, da. I am, thank you, Jesus, at a fairly decent level
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
my circle, in my profession.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say that I don't enjoy being introduced as I was at an open mic a couple of months ago, and
Mm-hmm.
someone introduced me as a legend in San Diego poetry,
I
and
like
I had
that.
to kind of look over my shoulder and go, "Who is he talking about?" Um, so I love that.
Yeah. But and I'm not saying that you can't love
But
that,
it's not
but
the overriding thing.
exactly. That's not your money value. You're not saying this is what I value. You're saying that it's nice, but that's like the icing on the cake. That's not the cake.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly.
The cake for me is somebody coming to me and saying, I had a elderly lady. I ran a group called Dragon's Wing in
Okay.
Colorado Springs.
Okay.
And at one point we had something like 19 poets on the
Mm-hmm.
ground.
Okay.
If there was a poetry event or anything that could be even vaguely construed as a poetry event,
Yes.
a Dragon's Wing was in the house.
That's awesome.
And so about every 3 months or so, we used to do a show.
Mm-hmm.
Poetry, music, dancing, da 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 da. Because all of my Dragon's Wings, here was the criteria for being a Dragon's Wing. You couldn't just be a good poet, you had to be good in something else.
Okay. All
And
right.
so I had Dragon's Wings who were poets and painters, poets and dancers, poets and administrative folks,
That's cool.
poets and teachers. So that if I went into a school and they would say, well, we need we'd like a poet and, face painter and storyteller, and that I call, and instead of bringing in like 10 different people, it's like, oh, I got you in 4.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. And so that I went into Dragon's Wing when I built that was a very deliberate idea. You have to be good at more than one thing. You have to be a star in a couple of places.
Yeah.
So we had done this show, and this elderly woman comes up to me after. This was our Black Poetry Month,
Okay.
or Black History Month show.
Okay.
And this lady comes up to me and she just looks at me and she says, "Thank you so much. You just gave me my black back."
That's awesome.
I freaking lost it. I mean,
Yeah.
to hear something like that, segregation,
Mm-hmm.
and she would have had to know about the riots and the demonstrations in the '60s, and the kind of coming of age of what we were trying to do in our ideals. She would have known all that. For her to say that to me,
Yeah.
oh my God! I mean, nothing I will ever do is going to top that.
Yeah.
For somebody to tell me, because of your words and your mission and what you're doing, you gave me back my identity.
Yeah. I mean, that's
If I
huge.
had, it's unbelievable, and you understand that.
I do.
But there are people who don't.
No.
It would be like, oh, some old lady gave you a nice compliment.
No, that's
Okay,
so not it.
those folks is
Yes.
just let me go. You're a Southern girl. You will understand this. Let me lay hands on you and pray. Okay.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, God bless your heart. If you think that a nice old lady just gave you a compliment, I'm like, God, just bless your heart.
Thank you. I love that phrase. It's just bless your heart.
Just bless your heart. Just
More. Those are folks who literally are more to be pitied than scorned, because
yes, because they don't
there's
understand.
nothing you can do for them.
Now, just wrapping up here a little bit, you said something before we started the interview, and I want to make sure that the audience hears it. What do you think is, why is it important for women to work with and empower other women?
First of all, because the planet is going to die without it.
That's true.
We can't keep going the way we've been going and not trust each other more, bond with each other more, realize that we are the guiding force that's going to get this sorry place where it's supposed to be.
Yes.
I have every belief, every faith that women are going to save this election on November the 6th, because we did it before. Black women specifically did it before.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Because we're the ones who take the heat when things don't go well.
Mm-hmm.
We're the ones who take the heat when stuff just starts spiraling out of control.
That's true.
And the fact that we can communicate with each other on a different level than most people think is real communication. The fact that we work together well, because we understand each other's burdens and stories.
Yeah.
The fact that we don't break, we bend, but we don't break.
No, we don't. There is no option to break.
Right. Exactly. We don't have the choice.
No.
And so we just keep going. Um, Minority women have known this for years
Yes.
because we're not given the option. I have a poem that I wrote ages ago that says, just make your way through, you got to use all your chances, because Black girls don't get circumstances, extended or any other. So get it right and right away.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. We don't get that choice.
Yeah.
So it's in one way, fortunately, in another way, unfortunately, getting to the point where every woman, regardless of color, cultural background, or whatever, is being made to, again, unfortunately, understand, I don't have a choice.
That's
I
right.
don't get to hang back. I don't get to not
That.
I don't get to not act. I don't get to not, here's the big thing, I don't have the opportunity to not be who I am anymore.
Yes.
It's a requirement now. Otherwise, quite literally, unfortunately, in some places, you're going to die.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that some of us don't always see, because some of us haven't always had circumstances in our life where it has been revealed to us. And if we live someplace very impoverished, or not impoverished, very enriched, and we live in these first world countries, a lot of times we don't even understand what it's like to live in these foreign countries where, it is death to you if
Or
you,
if we do, don't, and I've run across these folks, we don't believe it.
Yes. Yes. And, I remember my first marriage was very, very toxic and so negative. And I ended up leaving him because it was just so toxic. And the abuse grew to a point where I could no longer accept it. And even in the broken state that I was in, and I didn't believe that I was worth it. And I did not believe that I was worth anything good. And I remember having this moment after I left him, and it was me and my daughter lying in what had been my marriage bed. And she was a newborn and she was 6 months old. And I sat there and I thought, honey, you know what? I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do this because I don't know. But I know this, that as a mommy to you, and as a woman who will have a story later, because I have no option to not overcome, I have to be good enough so that you and every other woman out there who is in this situation or who will be in this situation and is going to hear my story will go, that is what it looks like. And that is what it looks like to be a woman. Because
that's what it looks like.
we don't have
Exactly.
to take
That's what it
this
looks like.
shit.
That's what it feels like. Well, the thing about it is that there are some folks, there are women in other countries who don't know that they have that option.
They don't know.
But they know in their hearts, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be treated like this.
Yes.
But they don't have the resources
Right.
necessarily. These are the ladies that you hear about who pick up their kids in the dead of night and leave. These are the kids. Isabel Allende, the author.
Okay.
She has a TED Talk on passion, and she talks about this lady who is in prison. She's got 6 children, and to keep herself alive in this prison, one of the things that she does is she has twins while she's imprisoned. She names the twins after the camp commander because she knows that will get her a break. You have people who will say, oh my God, what a sellout, what a collaborator. Da, da. She was protecting her kids.
That's right.
That's the only way that, so there, you always know. It's just sometimes what you see as a resource, other people who don't know will see as a sellout or as you not doing the work or whatever stupid thing,
or manipulator or or whatever.
So I have the modern. I have my friend Priscilla. Okay, Priscilla's a gorgeous woman, blue eyes, ash blonde, legs for days. I mean, this
Yeah.
chick's a knockout. Brain like a steel trap.
Hmm.
Okay. And so she would walk into these meetings of all men, and they would look at the hair and the eyes and the legs and everything like that.
Hmm.
And she said, I never walk out of a meeting with more than I thought of asking for when I walked in.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I said that to another friend, and she said, oh, that's so anti-feminist. And I said, no, it's
No,
not.
it's not.
She's not representing herself as anything but who she is.
That's right. Yeah.
She's not in there, flirting and batting her eyelashes. If they're looking at her instead of listening, that's not her problem.
No. And the feminism in its truest form, not some of the other crap that happens today, in its truest form is about empowerment. That's what it is about. It is about women stepping into their roles as they were meant to fill them. And you know what? Women are beautiful. Can we just stop and
Thank
talk
you.
about
If you got flaunt,
yes,
okay, that's all there is to it.
that's what I'm
And
saying.
so to this whole idea of you have to be one of the guys. What the hell for?
No, I'm like, you know what? God gave me womanly parts because I am a woman. And if a
Now,
man
if
is
you
good looking and he got to the top, most people don't assume, oh, he must have slept his way to the top.
right,
But a woman does. We need to stop that culture right now. If a woman succeeds, it's mostly because she is awesome.
it's
Like
because she's got the brains to
she
work
uses
what
what
she's
she
got.
has.
And
Yeah. Mhm.
you look at the prime example that I use a lot is Maya Angelou. This
Yes.
was
Oh my
not a
gosh. Yes.
pretty woman, okay?
Yeah. Hmm.
But commanding, effective. I mean, my
Yep.
God, what this woman did with her career. And the whole poem, the pretty women wonder where my power lies. You
Hmm.
know, I'm not cute or built to suit, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right.
It's just, I'm a woman. That's the
Mhm.
end of the discussion. Okay.
That's right.
And I know how to use what it is that I've got. If you are swept away by that and think I'm manipulating you,
Mm-mm.
that's not my problem. If I'm
No.
presenting myself as who I am,
Yes.
and you're thinking, ooh, that's again, I
Mhm.
don't know that I'm even flattered by that.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I'm going to be sitting there thinking,
Yeah.
Jesus, what an idiot.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. Here's the thing that kills me. If you ask a child of either gender, like for example, this morning I asked my son, I said, "Are you big and strong?" And he stood up and he said, "Yes, mommy, I be big and strong. See my muscles?" And like, of course, he weighs like 30 pounds soaking wet, but he owns the fact that in his mind, he is big and strong. And if you ask my daughter, "Hey, are you smart?" You know what my daughter says? "No, I'm brilliant." And like some people
My
might
kind
think
of
like
girl.
that's sassy. And I'm like, no, no, this is a cultural shift that starts in my home. Because you know what? If someone says to a woman, "You are so beautiful," you know what most women's reaction are? It's, "Oh, well, I just need to lose 10 pounds," or, "Oh, my hair has gone flat today," or they pick at themselves. And I'm like, honey, no, no. You stop and you own the fact that, yes, I am
Yeah,
hot.
you look.
I'm
There's
beautiful.
a I hate to call her a comedian because she's so much more than that. Named Louisa Omalon, and
Okay.
she did a show called "What Would Beyonce Do?" And
Oh,
then she did
goodness.
another one called "Am I Right, Ladies?"
Okay.
And one of the things you need to check this out. You can see it on YouTube. It's called "Am I Right, Ladies?"
Oh, I'm,
Louisa.
I'm taking a sticky note. I'm writing it down.
One of the things that she talks about is exactly what we're talking about. She said, I'll see a friend on the street and I'll say, that dress looks great. And she'll go, oh, well, I need to lose 10 pounds. And I can't believe you saw me
Yes.
in the drag, when I got it at the thrift store. And then and it degrades into, I hate myself. I hate myself. I hate myself. And she says all that over a compliment.
Yeah.
So
I'm
then
like, no wonder women don't
she
feel
says,
empowered.
here's the deal. When somebody says, this is what you need to do. When somebody comes to you and says, hey, I love that dress, you say, damn right I look good. And I'll tell you something for nothing. It looked like shit on the hanger.
That's
I
right.
heard that. I
Mhm.
fell off my bed cheering. It's like, yes, this chick gets it. And that's the whole thing. Somebody tells you you look good. You don't go, we are taught to be self-deprecatory because
Yes.
you're modest to acknowledge how you, so, oh, thank you, oh, I got this old thing,
Oh, no big deal. It's just from this store.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And instead just say, I'll give you
Thank you.
something for nothing. It looked like shit on the hanger.
That's right. I love that. I'm totally going to start using that now. I love that so much.
It was the most brilliant thing in a show of absolutely brilliant things that she says that I had heard, because it's like, yes, women need to stop apologizing for who they
For
are,
being
what they
just
look like.
them.
If
Yes.
somebody says, and part of that, I get it, because there are people who will use compliments as manipulation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I get that, especially in my world. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah.
this whole, oh honey, oh darling, oh, you were the most, brilliant thing on, da, 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 that whole thing. And I've seen people succumb to that, to the point that my apprentices, I tell them, there's going to come a point, you don't believe me now, but there's going to come a point where you start believing your own press releases.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when the crash comes, because the crash is coming, I'm going to say, I told you so. Oh, Stacy, that's never going to happen. It's about the work for me. Da 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 da. Okay. So one of my very first apprentices, this woman was extraordinary, still is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And she was getting a lot of press in Denver and in Colorado Springs, and everywhere she went, it was just like, bouquet thrown left, right, and sideways. So, and she's calling me up at 3 o'clock in the morning to tell me about all this. So she calls me and she says, oh, I really killed it tonight and it was great. And I'm like, fantastic. And I go back to sleep. She calls me the next week and, oh, I did this. And it was great. And I'm like, fantastic. We talk. I go back to sleep. Calls me the third week and she's crying. I'm like, what's going on? And she said, I just came down, from doing a show, and they didn't really like it, and I don't quite understand. And I started laughing. And she said, "Where you left?" I mean, totally. She was like, "What?" I said, "I told you this was coming. I told you, don't believe your own press, because this
Yep.
is what happened." She was really mad. She hung up on me, but then
Then
she
it's
called me
like,
back, because
well,
it's like, because, and the only reason that I get to do that, and I admit on a certain level it's heartless, but it's also necessary,
it's
because this whole
honest.
thing is about, one of the things I preach is you're only as good as your last show. And you
Yeah.
have to be working all the time. People in my business can't sit on their laurels.
No.
You just can't. First of all, as the public part of you,
Mm-hmm.
nobody wants to hear the same poems they heard from you, a million
No.
and a half years ago. I mean, everybody has their golden oldies and their favorites that they like to hear, but
Yeah.
this the
Mm-hmm.
artist side of you won't let you do that. You
I
have to innovate. You
understand.
have to create. And
Yes.
so when I want to run across somebody who's just like, well, I'm just going to do the same thing all the time, I found my niche, like, I can't, no, we
Mm-hmm.
can't do that. And then when they come crash, it's like, well, I don't understand what happened. What happened is you decided to start believing what people were saying about you.
Yeah.
What are
And
you
yep.
saying about you? You knew it was wrong when you stepped up on that. I've had, I don't know how many
Mm-hmm.
apprentices, students come up and say, I walked up on that stage, knowing I was going to do, and I was like, that's your problem right there.
Yeah.
You're just, I told one of my students once, honey, you're just not that hot. And she looked at me. I was like, you have to understand. I know what you're capable of. And you walked
Yeah.
up on that stage tonight and you did what the crowd wanted instead of what I know you're capable of.
Yeah.
They might have been impressed. I'm not.
I hold you to a higher standard because I know what you're
One of the
capable of.
one of the things that I tell every person that I've ever worked with, my private students and my apprentices,
Mm-hmm.
get this speech from me, and they hate it and they get mad at me, and I would like to say I care, but I don't. And here's the thing. I always tell them, I am never ever going to train you to what you think you can do. I'm going to train you to what I know you're capable of. And there
I
are going to
love
be
that.
times when those two things are not going to be in sync. And you're
Yeah.
going to get mad at me. Oh, Stacy, I could never be mad at you, just for telling me the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to me. You're going to get mad at me.
Yeah.
No, that's not going to happen. I'll understand what you're doing. when you're doing it. It's like, okay, fine.
Sure.
So there will come that time when we're running a rehearsal and I make you do a poem, as I did to Madeline. Madeline has since forgiven me. Okay. Madeline is doing like her big piece. Okay. Every artist has that, that masterpiece. Madeline is doing her masterpiece and we're practicing. So she does it and I kind of sit there and twiddle my thumbs and I'm like, okay, again. Okay. Yeah, do it again. So finally, about the fourth time, I stopped and I closed my notebook and I looked at her and said, when you get finished playing around, just let me know and we can really start rehearsal. I know. And she looked at me. I should be dead. The look she shot at me. And I said, anytime you're ready.
That's right.
So she looked at me and I said, and this is what people who especially my nephews, got used to hearing this. I don't care if you're mad.
That's
Do your
right.
job.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes ahead. She does take number 5. And I looked at her and say, well, we're getting there.
That's right.
You want to put a little octane in it this time?
That's right.
The 6th rendition was the one that I had been looking for.
The whole time. Yeah.
And so she got finished and I said, how do you feel? And she said, oh, I get it now.
Because
That's
it's
all I'm
different.
waiting for. Oh, I get it now.
Yes.
The
Yes.
fact that you just cursed all of my,
my children and my grandchildren and
the fact that you, took a minute to, put out a hit on me somewhere in the universe.
Right.
That's mellow. I get it. It's fine.
Yes. All right. Well, I have loved talking to you, and it has been amazing. And so, ladies, Stacy has told me if you guys are interested in working with her one-on-one, which she does, she also does live workshops. And so, but she is an introvert, so she prefers small groups. And so you can contact her directly. Stacy, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
I have 2 websites. One is especially for things like this. And that website address is www.wickedhotwords.com.
I love it. And I'll make sure to drop a link below the video so everybody can just click through, and that way they can contact you through your website too. So, Stacy, thank you so much for
your time. Blast.
And this was amazing. We'll have to have you back on and we'll have to talk more because this has been a great time. So, thank you so much. And I think that's it. So was there any final words that you'd like to share with anybody? Any parting thoughts?
Tons and tons of parting thoughts, but the easiest, best thing I can tell you is listen to yourself and trust it. That's it.
I can't even top that. So we're just going to end on that note. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Stacy. And I think that's it. You guys have a lovely day. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.